Hey, welcome to video number 226 of Walker This Way with Hazel Walker, the queen of all things.
BNI and networking.
You're always
And the problem is,
we can be totally serious right up to that point, and then the big intro.
but right as you turned on the video, I looked back at my bookshelf and went, I was sitting here going, oh, I really should clean up the bookshelf. And I was like, too late.
So we now just got to step inside Hazel's head. What's really going through there? That's amazing.
I know. And the whole time we've been on this call, I hadn't noticed the bookcase until you get ready to say go live. And I'm like, oh, the bookcase.
And speaking of going live, we're live. So Hazel,
yeah,
we're in May, mid-May. It's probably a little early to talk about Christmas. But let's talk about Christmas, more specifically Scrooge, even more specifically, the ghost of Christmas past. Always keeps on giving for some reason. What do you mean by that, Mark?
yeah. What do you like?
Yeah. As I was thinking that, I was thinking she's going to say, what are you talking about?
What are you like?
The ghost of Christmas past. So here's the thing. There are things that happen in our past sometimes that for whatever reason come back and haunt us now in life, but in business. Or, we have experiences where we're trying to do something and, fill out forms or fill out whatever. And they go, well, have you done this thing? No. And they're like, oh, no, I did this like 30 years ago. Oh, well, we need to address that.
Right.
And so things come back and haunt us. And in talking to you as well, it's things we do or things we may not have done that have now causing us problems too. It
is like I've said, everybody who knows me knows this. You can do anything you want or not do anything you don't want to do, as long as you understand that there is likely a consequence to said action or inaction.
Right. Now,
here's the thing. Sometimes we do things or don't do things and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. Nothing happens. It's like, oh yeah, that was just it wasn't that big a deal. Like I dealt with it and it's not that big a deal. But you never know when something that you've done or not done has a consequence that will meet you in your future.
Right.
For instance, I applied for my global entry so I can go through customs much quicker, right? And I drove 4.5 hours for a 10-minute interview. And part of the interview was 2 questions they asked. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? No. The first one was, have you ever had anything removed from you at customs? No. Are you sure? Oh, yeah, I did one time. It was protein powder, right? It was protein powder. And they took it out of my luggage because I was going to the Ironman competition in Perth, Australia. And I was bringing my athletes, because I was their support, I was bringing them some more protein powder. And they took it away from me because they said it had egg whites in it. And the lady at the global entry goes, this is a trusted program and we expect that you're going to declare everything. I go, I didn't know I was supposed to declare protein powder. How would I know? So she went on, she goes, have you ever had any problems with the law, convicted of a felony or anything ever? And I'm like, no. And she goes, and then she said it again. Are you sure? I'm like, oh, there might have been one thing, but I think it was just like a misdemeanor and it was dealt with 47 years ago. 47 years ago. I said, is that what you're referring to? She goes, yes. 47 years. She goes, yes, you have an open court case. I'm like, what do you mean open? She goes, it was continued. It's never been closed. I'm like, they dismissed it. It was just dismissed. She goes, no, it just says continued and it was never documented. So there's something I did 47 years ago. So what happened is she says, well, we can't give you the global entry until we know what's happened on this 47-year-old case. We can't do anything. And I go, you're telling me that I drove all the way here, 4.5 hours here and 4.5 hours back for nothing? She's like, yeah, ultimately I can't approve it today. I need proof that this case was closed and continued. I'm like, oh, fine. I had to come all the way back, but on my drive back, I immediately thought, well, Hazel, you're the one that tells everybody you can do whatever you want in life or not do whatever you want as long as you're willing the consequence. And right now you're paying a consequence for a 47-year-old infraction.
Right. Because 47 years ago, it would impact you today.
That it would still impact me today. So I had to pay for the police to do a background check and show that the case was actually dismissed, like it was like dismissed. And I've got the document in case that ever comes back to me again. I have a document because the court has never closed it.
Right.
The police had to go back and figure it out. It's like, yeah, it's closed. It was dismissed. I'm like, I know that, but they didn't know that. And I have to send proof of that, even though it was 47 years ago. And the lady told me, yeah, there was a guy in here last week. It was 50 years ago. 50 years. So consequences are always going to be there for the things you do and you don't do. And you see that in your personal life. You think, oh, I did this little thing. I got this traffic ticket. It's not going to be anything. And then 20 years later, it's going to show up somewhere when you want to go to another country or whatever, because they look at everything. And that goes very true, Mark, with our BNI chapters and our BNI members. You don't have to follow the BNI policies, but you will have to pay the consequences. Like you don't have to follow the attendance policy, but there will be consequences to it. And you can't be angry at the people enforcing. Like I couldn't be angry at that woman who was doing the interview. She was doing what she had to do. I did walk out feeling angry, but then I realized, oh, that's the consequences of my behavior 47 years ago, right? So, and this BNI system, just like global entry, they have a system by which they go through this entire process. And the system said they can't give that to me until I do this, right? That's the system. They did not make an exception for me, even though it was 47 years ago. And when BNI members start to make exceptions and they start to break the system, then the system's not there to protect them from the consequences of having broke the system. The system, BNI as a whole, has a system that will protect you as you're dealing with membership issues.
Yeah.
And for the members, when you use the system, it will grow your business. But it's your choice. If we're always at choice.
Always.
We're always, right? We're always at choice. Now, my choice was to walk out of there angry and throw a temper tantrum, but instead I just came home and called and got it resolved, right? That was my consequence. Mm-hmm. And then I had to sit on pins and needles to wait for it to be approved. So, we have chapters that go, we have a member who's a problem. And when we say, but have you followed the system? Have you given them mentoring? Have you supported them? Have you helped them? Have you put them on probation? Are they still a problem? No, we haven't done any of that. Well, then
nothing we can do.
You got to follow the system.
Yes.
You can't just randomly say, hey, Mark Simmons, we're going to open your position. Why? But why? Well, we've spoken to you about disrupting the meeting multiple times and your lack of participation. And now we're just not going to renew your membership. See, because I spoke to you already, you were well aware of it. It's follow the system.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. One of the and this is great because leadership team transition, at least for our regions, is coming up October, and everyone's going through the process of onboarding. And so it's good to know for those stepping in, one of the biggest challenges our chapters face is exactly that. They want to do things, they want to move their chapter forward, but because processes weren't followed to begin with, they're having a real struggle in being able to carry it forward. They're having to fix things that aren't even part of the program in the first place.
And they're trying to fix things that they didn't break. For instance, the reality of this, somebody didn't follow the system and close the case, right? The court didn't follow their own system and close the case. It wasn't me that broke the system. They didn't follow the system. I just have the consequence of it, right? Yeah. But had they followed their own processes and systems, I wouldn't have had the problem that I had, right? So it was both ways. If the members aren't following the processes and the membership committees aren't holding people accountable, there's nothing we can do. Like the guy who had 17 absences in the chapter, and they were still holding on to him. Well, that means we have to let everybody have 17 absences.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the process that you've corrupted the system.
Yeah. So I think, I have this, I think it's one of the slides for orientation, is if you want to make this really simple, it's as you say, trust the system.
Just trust the system, follow all the steps of the system. And everybody, each person on the leadership team has a piece of the system that they follow. If everybody follows their part, it works really, really well. It's a simple system.
Yeah. So Hazel Walker, if you don't want the ghost of Christmas past coming to haunt you in your dreams or in your realities, follow the system.
Even tickets, Pat, even your own past.
Yeah. It's so many places. All right. Good advice. Thank you, Hazel Walker. Until next time.
My pleasure.
Bye.